about Nancy Pelosi and her husband, because I feel like there's just not a lot of sympathy there for something like that should have never happened. But that's alarming to me also.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing is that it goes beyond sympathy, right? I mean, first and foremost, it's horrifying what happened to her and what happened to her husband and their family. But what's not being discussed, a lot of it, when it is being discussed, it's like, oh, look at this terrible thing that happened to this woman and her family. Not, there was an attempted assassination for the person third in line for the presidency of the United States of America that was politically motivated and was radicalized by Fox News and by right-wing circles. There is a major media outlet, there is a major news channel that is fueling political violence in this country, and we're acting like it's normal. It's not normal. Like, I can tell you 110%, one of the largest sources of death threats that I get is Tucker Carlson.
Wow.
Every time that dude puts my name in his mouth, the next day, I mean, this is like what stochastic terrorism is. It's like this indirect, it's like when you use a very large platform to turn up the temperature and target an individual until something happens. And then when something happens, because it's indirect, you say, oh, I had nothing to do with that.
Right.
Tucker Carlson, God forbid anything happens, he plays a massive role in political violence. Like, it comes on his doorstep specifically. It's
when
not
you say
just
something happens, what do you mean, to you or just in the country, period?
To me, to elected officials.
Any of his targets.
Any of his targets. Because it's not even just elected officials. He will target people that have, like,
other reporters.
He will
other
target journalists, but he will also target activists and advocates that do not have resources or an infrastructure of protection either. And it is extremely dangerous. He absolutely, and he was part of January 6th.
Right.
Like, the violence that happened then, he absolutely played a role in that.
How do y'all protect yourself against that? Can you sue or?
Well, as a public figure and elected official, you don't really get the same protections. So because, like, the bar for libel is much higher, there's a lot that can be said in the public sphere, right? Like, just because someone says something bad about me doesn't mean I can go out and sue them. Even if someone lies about me, right, I can't really sue them. And that, I think, is part of what he uses as a shield. He knows that that he is targeting a legal class that really cannot issue consequence. And he uses that to drive an enormous amount of violence. And meanwhile, this dude cries like every time there's like someone around the corner that he feels like weird about, but he does not know some of the,
I'm sure he's going to use this on his show, so you might as well say something to him directly.
Let him use it. Like, Tucker, come. Like, whatever.
But you're going to see Meanwhile for You.
Pardon?
You were saying, meanwhile, he cries every time someone's around the corner. But
yeah.
I remember that because somebody put his address out there one time or something, right?
Yeah, but the thing is that where it actually becomes crazy is that he drives so much of this violence and threat. But meanwhile, like, I'm the one that has to pay for my own security as a consequence of his actions. Like, I have to fundraise for my own safety. Like, that's how raggedy this system is. And so what happens if you speak up and you can't fundraise for your own security? Then you go into hiding, literally, in order to be safe, whether you go into hiding for a day or 2 days or a week. But then how much longer are we going to extend that? And this is when we, like, the clarity of what we are living in starts to come into relief, where people who are critical of systems of power have to go into hiding, where racial minorities are targeted to drive turnout, because we know that targeting immigrants, talking about crime, drives out turnout on the other side when we mischaracterize and play into stereotypes. When you have people who say, no matter what happens in the results of the election, I will not I will not accept it. I win. Mm-hmm. When you have DHS reports that just came out last week that showed that DHS was trying to like manufacture terrorism under Trump, like saying that BLM tracking people. I mean, this is what the seeds of a blooming fascist state look like.
Yes.
That's why we need to turn out this vote. I understand that, like, listen, not all Democrats are the same. Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. And I understand it can just feel like a bunch of BS on your ballot. But for me, I would rather have an election than no election. Mm-hmm. And that's the direction that these folks want to take us to. No election. A one-party state.